This whole thing is called Getting Your Life Back with Cade Cooper. And I want to bring people on and interview them, and I want them to tell you how they got their life back. And that's what it's about. It's not about bringing a bunch of rich people on. I don't care if people are rich. The acquisition of money and wealth and fame doesn't really impress me. If someone can come on and tell me how they stayed the person that they always were, and how they stayed humble, and how they still treat people good in the midst of all that money, if they can explain to me how a camel can go through the eye of a needle, that's neat to me. But you may not like my story. You may not agree with my story. It may offend you in ways. I promise you, I probably will offend just about everyone with my views, but I don't apologize for it because it's my reality. But my hope is, with enough different stories and enough different ways people got their life back, whether it's by God, whether it's by some other religion, whether it's by yoga, whether it's by whatever, I don't really care. I just want to help people reclaim their life like I did. So that's the goal, and that's what I want to do here. So as I was getting clean, I was with my buddy one night, and part of the thinking that comes is what I call it toxic perfectionism, and it is thinking you have to be perfect. Well, we'll never be perfect, and thinking we're not good with God unless we're perfect. And so we're on a tremendous amount of drugs, and we're at one nightclub, and we want to go to another one. And our intentions aren't good going to the next one. We want to go womanize. But I couldn't drive when I got in the car. It's just pretty rare for me. Well, I was really messed up, and I looked at him. I'm like, I can't drive. He's like, neither can I. I wasn't lucid enough to think we should call an Uber, so I'm like, we need to pray. He's like, how can we pray right now? We're on drugs. I said, I don't know. But brother, all I can tell you is I understand God more now. I know He knows I hate doing this. I don't know what else to do. So I said a prayer and asked for His protection. We drove from the one bar to the other, got there, and he looked at me and said, I've never seen you drive better. And I got two distinct impressions. The first one was, don't ever do that again. This is your one pass. I'm not going to protect you every time you drive drunk. But the second was so powerful. It was, you've got to quit thinking I judge you based upon one action. I see the man that you're trying to be. I see the father you're trying to be. I know that you're trying to help people. I know that you're trying to share your story. And there is nothing you can do from keeping my love from you. So the last part of me getting clean, as I was talking to my therapist and I was discussing my daughter, and I'm like, she just turned 13. I'm a single dad raising a 13-year-old daughter with no sisters growing up. Yeah, that's a fun one. But she's as smart as some of the women I know that are 40 years old. And, some of the stuff she says she shouldn't understand. But she's a beautiful, sweet, wonderful girl. But one day I was kind of talking to him. I'm like, I wish she'd be an 11-year-old or 10-year-old or however old she was at the time. And he said, Cade, when you check out as much as you have in her life, whether through drugs or even just not being present, she can feel the pain of it. You transfer it to her. And it forces her to grow up quicker. But do you know what's really sad? You figured out how to numb your pain, and she has no idea how to. I've been clean 3.5 years. I was done. I was tired. I was tired of being mad all the time. I was tired of being scared all the time. I was tired of being afflicted by every possible thing that could go wrong, and worrying and catastrophizing, and I just gave up. I said, God, show me how to trust you. Show me how to get over this. And I went into my recovery program, and I went to therapy with my therapist with all the desperation of a drowning man. True recovery is not staying clean. True recovery is not wanting to use. Typically, we change behavior when the pain of persisting in the behavior is less than the pain of changing, and I've reached that point. Getting sober was incredibly hard. Staying sober is not. I never want to use drugs anymore. I don't want to be in unhealthy relationships anymore. If you're a regular part of my life, it's because you make my life better. If maintaining a relationship with you causes me to not be able to take care of the things I need to in my own life, then I'll set a boundary with you. And if the boundary's broke, then no harm, no foul, but I'll probably separate myself from you because I align myself with like-minded people who lift me. And that's what we should do. Today, my life is beautiful. I do not fear. The only time I feel fear is if it's in the immediate, when there's something that should make me scared, and then anxiety does its purpose and it heightens my senses in order to deal with that. But I have processed my past. I've forgiven myself because I realized at my core I always did the best with the knowledge that I had. I never was the type of guy that really wanted to hurt people. I just had an improper understanding of how to deal with life, to deal with addiction, to deal with my emotions. Mickey Mantle said, it's amazing how much we don't know about the game we've been playing our whole life. I would just react, and that was just me, and it caused me all sorts of pain. When I was talking with my therapist, talk with Ron, we FaceTime now, and I was up by Draper, Utah, at my friend's house, and I was looking at him, and it turned to the mountains, and he said, wait, turn around, look at those mountains. He looked at me, he said, that is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I'm a small town boy from Louisiana, full swampland. If I lived there, I would be there every day. And I realized my whole life when people would talk about how beautiful the mountains are, what the sky looks like, or the nice weather, I was like, what are you talking about? I could never feel or see any of it. If you stood up in my church and said, I'm grateful for my trials, you probably should duck because I was getting ready to take my boots off to chuck them at you on the stage. I'm like, that's crap. That's people just saying what other people want to hear. Or there's no way they've suffered like me, right? If they said that to me, there's no way. Well, the last while, through all this stuff, I've learned to trust God. And trust is interesting because we can't make ourselves trust people. We don't have that power. When trust is broken, especially, even if we forgive someone, we can't just say, I trust you one day and that's how it works. Trust is gained through consistent behavior over an extended period of time. When someone is consistent and they stay that way for a while, automatically we start to trust. Well, at the core of everything, my trials, drugs, porn, women, whatever, were not my problem. They were my solution. They were the way I went to cope with my problems. They were bad coping mechanisms, but they were all that I knew. Well, throughout these podcasts and throughout me talking, I'm going to talk about what my problems were. My problems were codependency. My problems were anxiety. My problem was my ego. My problem was utter lack of self-love. My problem was absolutely no faith in God. My problems were self-pity and loathing and pride. Once I processed those in a very difficult but real way, I don't need to use drugs anymore. And when something hard happens now, I don't ask God to take it away anymore. Because I understand if I meet it with grace and I meet it with His help, it is only an opportunity for me eventually to be happier and to help more people. And I love myself for everything I've done, the good stuff and the bad, because in the end, it's created a man today that I love. And why do I love myself? Because I do things that are love-worthy. And if I love myself, why would I hurt myself? Why would I put chemicals in my body that hurt myself? Why would I get in unhealthy relationships that hurt me? I wouldn't wish those for people I love. Why am I going to wish them for myself? We've been hit with a seismic blow these last few years. When COVID hit, and I'll talk about it later, I at the time was on a trip out in Jamaica and got another bacteria called leptospirosis that almost killed me, put my kidneys into renal failure, and another through a gift of God and one of my friends saved my life. But I remember coming out of that and I had a PICC line in my bicep for a month and a half and I couldn't work and I couldn't work out, which obviously I like to do, and I started looking online and I watched people I thought were wonderful people tearing each other apart, ripping each other to shreds over differences in political and medical opinions and destroying relationships. I see people latch on to conspiracy theories, which some of them I do not know how anyone believes. But I understand the psychology behind it. I see people, even in my very state, that use fear as a weapon, fear as a way to get people to try and control things that they cannot control in order to profit from these people, in order to get money from them. We see it at both levels of government. We see it from Big Pharma. We see it from food modifiers. Anyone in power, we see it all the time. But anger is very interesting. When I got rid of my anger is when I got rid of my fear. Because anger is a secondary emotion to fear. And I see so many people trying to control things and worry about things and figure out the source of problems which they cannot control. I cannot affect gas prices to save my life. I have no sway over who's president of the United States. It is not in my scope of influence. I don't know why exactly war started. I don't know whose special interest is involved in what, but I'll tell you what I can do. I can lose my peace worrying about it. I can spend all my days researching who's in charge of gas prices and who manipulated what elections and who should or shouldn't be president, all this stuff, and it can terrify me. And I can lose my peace over something I can't control. And once I start getting conspiracy theories, you know what they lead to? More conspiracy theories. I'm not saying they're not real. Corruption is not new. It's happened since the beginning of time and will happen to the end of time. But can I change it? No. But there's hope here. The very Son of God saw this over 2,000 years ago. He said, in the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. My peace I give unto you, not as the world give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. I know God is real. I do not worry about things I can't control. I focus on what I can control. And that's staying close to Him. That's treating people the way He would have me treat them. That's being honest in my dealings. That's doing what I'm doing now, which is trying to share something that, to be frank, I'm both excited and very nervous about doing in hopes of helping other people. Those are things I can control. If something negative happens to me and I did not cause it, then that is part of my mortal trial here on earth that God sees fit for me to go through, and I can handle that. But as long as you focus on stuff you can't control, you'll get angrier and angrier. The reason you like that is because it hides your fear. You don't feel fear and anger at the same time. But if you're honest with yourself, you get more scared and then you find something that you think is some people don't know, or some conspiracy out to get you, and then you feel angry again, and it's a pattern. And then we have the media, we have politics, we have influencers, we have life coaches, we have all these people, these alternate agendas getting you to freak out. And you know what you can do? You can destroy meaningful relationships, like I saw, over trivial things like political opinions. There's some problems with the world today. We think in order to love someone, we have to agree with their behavior. And if we don't, or if we act different than them, then we should be feared. You do not have to compromise your convictions to be compassionate. I do not apologize for anything I say or believe. If it offends you, I certainly can understand, and it doesn't upset me. The very Son of God was extremely divisive. He went around causing conflict constantly, but peace was always his motive. You always know where you stand with me at this point in my life. I deal with situations, I deal with conflict immediately. Conflict is unavoidable, contention is optional. We need healing. We need peace. We need to be able to get along and help each other, even if we don't see eye to eye on everything. For me, that's through God. And again, my goal here isn't to convert you to my way of believing in God or even God in general. It's just to try and show you things that'll get your life back. But I'll make you this promise with God. If you say, God, is there a God? And if you are God, will you make yourself known to me? And if you are willing to do that and accept whatever consequences or things may come with that knowledge, I promise you, He will. I promise you, He's real. And in the end, on the other end, His alternate is real. I battle every day, but I don't battle against the government. I don't have the spirit of influence to do it. I don't battle against gas prices. I don't battle against stuff. And I'm not saying people should or shouldn't. If you have that control, that's up to you. I battle against the son of the morning, Satan, who wants to destroy me, who's caused all this turmoil in my life, who wants to take my children away from me, who wants to destroy you, who has tried more than I'm able to convey for me not to do what I'm doing. And I do not fear him at all. At all. And I know he's listening. And he can bring the powers of hell, and he can bruise my heel as much as he wants, and I will crush his skull through the power of Jesus Christ. Because that's what I do. I'm a disturber of his kingdom. And my goal in life is to liberate as many of my God's children as possible. As I start this endeavor, and as I bring people on, and as I post, and I love to write, and I've written for a long time, it's interesting, you know, when I first got divorced, I went on a Lake Powell singles trip, and I was on a boat with a bunch of beautiful women. We were playing MTV music videos, I felt like I was in an MTV music video, and I was like, man, I didn't think I would be here 5 years ago, but I'm glad I am. And I posted all this stuff on my Facebook. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with any of that. But something interesting happened. I started to get messages from friends. And they wanted to get divorced. I'm like, why would you want to get divorced? And they're like, because of your Facebook, Cade. Look at these girls. Look at it. It looks wonderful. And that's when God hit me. You need to be careful with what you convey. Because comparison kills our society. Comparison is a thief of joy, and it is fundamentally inaccurate because no one knows what is going on in someone else's life. We only know what our perception of what's going on or what they allow us to see, and nowhere is that amplified to a greater extent than social media. So my first ever post, and I'll share it with you one of these days, was, you want to know the realities of divorce? Try telling your 7-year-old daughter you're leaving her mom. Try losing your big house and your business. Try driving around crying all the time, wondering if you're going to make it. And I'm not saying that my pain was worse. I'm not saying divorce isn't always the answer. My family is not a broken home. We have a wonderful, wonderful co-parenting relationship, and my kids are extremely healthy. But I started posting and sharing, and God has let me know that my life is not one to be anonymous. And it's come at pain at times to me. Since I've posted about my addiction stuff, I've had people question my integrity. I've had people accuse me of using God to get women. I've had people accuse me of using addiction to get women. A lot of guys I know, and I know who they are, and I'm not even upset anymore, but I would date a girl and they would get 8 messages from different guys, which I would see, which would say, hey, be careful with him. Be careful with him. And at the time I was so upset, I'm like, I know this is helping people, but I don't want to share all of it. But part of me loved the attention of it, and part of me hated it. And why are you having me do this? Well, eventually I stopped caring what anyone thought. I'll continue to share. I'll continue to expose Satan in every way, shape, and form I can, because I understand his deceptions very well, and it's very hard to get things past me. I harness the power of God by keeping the commandments given through his Son, Jesus Christ. It's not by magic mushrooms. It's not by releasing and getting energy. It is by following the commandments that he set. Why is a guy like me, that looks like me, going to a religion that everyone sees is so limiting? Why am I abstinent? Why have I not been on a date for a year? Why did I quit drugs? Those are all very good questions. I can give you the short answer now, and I'll give you the long answer later. I've lived about every way that I could imagine on this earth. And by living my recovery program and living my faith, it is by far the best way I've found to maximize joy and minimize pain. It is not hard for me to follow my Savior. It's very hard for me not to. So I encourage you to do whatever you need to do to heal. Most people don't heal. I see all this methodology and ideas, and it's good ideas. It's, hey, accept stuff, don't fight, believe in yourself, you can do it, but there's no real application of how to do it, and people don't understand how to do it. Well, how to actually put that into practice is very hard. I recommend a very good therapist. I think it can help everyone. I absolutely recommend, more than anything, the God of heaven. I recommend relationships, good ones. There's this idea that you have to love being alone. I think that is dangerous and false. If you have to be around people all the time, like I did when I was first divorced, that wasn't good, because I was numbing myself no longer through drugs, but through constant stimulation. Because if I was ever alone, I either went to what I wasn't doing right, that didn't sit with me in my right, or how unorganized I was. But we heal together. Relationships are the most powerful agent of change, and the most powerful emotion is love. Fear and anger will never have the power to change behavior forever, nor will they be sustaining when you are hit with the whirlwinds of life, but love breaks through everything. But people start to change, and they feel the uncomfortableness of changing, and they don't want to feel that way, so they go back into the definition of insanity, and they do the same thing over and over, expecting different results. There's a movie and a book called 187 Hours. James Franco stars in it, and it took place in my native state of Utah. There was a hiker who got his arm caught while hiking, and he was caught in there for 187 hours. He's by himself. Well, towards the end of it, he was messing with a knife on the other end, and he accidentally punctured his thumb, and a bunch of gangrene came out. And he realized, if I don't cut off my arm, I'm going to die. So he describes the process as he starts to cut through his arm, and he says it's painful, and all of a sudden he hits a nerve. He said, it's this long stringy thing. And the moment he pierces that nerve, he said, my whole body's on fire. I've never felt anything like it. But he kept cutting. Eventually his arm fell off. He said, you know what I felt when my arm fell off? The only thing I felt was free. I know what it feels like to cut that arm off. I know what it feels like to hit that nerve. I know what it feels like to not want to live. I know what it feels like to not want to get up. I know what it feels like to hate yourself. I know what it feels like to not believe in God. I know what it feels like to feel like there's no hope and you're not worthy of anything. And I know what it feels like when you start to challenge those emotions. You start to cut that nerve. And I know what it feels like to be free. Life is meant to be enjoyed, to thrive, to live your life with passion, to love with everything you have, to put everything on the line, to risk failure, to not regret. It's not this probationary period where everything sucks and then eventually we get rewarded. My life today is beautiful. I see God all day, every day. I experience Him so many times. After so many, in the Book of Mormon it says, after having obtained so many witnesses, we obtain a hope and our faith becometh unshaken. My faith is unshaken. I have for a long time woke up and said, God, help me to know where to go, who to talk to, and what to say. And that's a prayer He answers pretty fast. And I see Him so much that after a while, I stop believing in coincidence. Today, I always want to know how it's going to work out, where it's going to work out, with who it's going to work out, when it's going to work out, why it's going to work out. But all God tells me is it's going to work out. I promise you, the God of heaven has not forsaken us. We do not need to fear or worry about the direction of the world is going. He is there. This was all foretold throughout all of time and by His only Son, who will be back with power and glory. My mission is mainly to the ones that are lost. I leave the 99 sheep and I go look after the one if you're the one. When I'm in a crowd, I look for that person that felt like I felt, the person who's ostracized, the person who's not talking to, the person that doesn't feel like they have anything. If I can go from a man who wanted to die, who was so disgusted with himself, who was so cloaked in shame and secrecy and lies, to a powerful, powerful man through the grace and mercy of Jesus Christ, to a man who can say, I hope my daughter marries a man like me. And you know what? She will. I hope my son turns out like me, but a little bit better. And you know what? He will. Then anything can happen. I'm excited for this. I'm nervous for this. I don't know how this is going to affect my life. I don't know who it's going to affect. But over the course of the last month, I have dealt with so many different emotions. And I'm grateful for the people that have helped me. I'm grateful for Andrea Bates, who's been my social media campaign manager and has been invaluable in helping me put this thing together. I'm grateful for my friend Shannon Kay, who you'll meet here in just a little bit, who's helped run me through these things. I'm grateful for my friend Clint Olson, who pitched this idea in the first place and has helped me to regulate my emotions. I'm grateful for my camera and my audio man, AJ Bear, who is very good at what he does. I'm grateful for my therapist, Ryan Phillips, who's kept me grounded and who's kept my vision. And I'm grateful for all you that I've mentioned this to. And when I felt inadequate and nervous, and you said, you have to do this. And you believed in me. You've empowered me because I've had the son of Morton telling me I am not good enough. I need to keep quiet. No one will listen. And on the other hand, hey, what if people do listen? You become a big deal. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful today. So I'm looking forward to bringing on some of the most incredible people I know. And, my only criteria is people that have their life back. And, my YouTube channel, my podcast, my post, they're not about what the world defines as success. I don't care if you have money. I don't care if you're famous. That doesn't necessarily impress me. And a lot of people have gotten that by very dishonest means or exploiting the weak. And in that case, I really don't think it's admirable. But I want you to hear some of my friends' stories and some of the people I know. Because even if mine doesn't resonate with you, I bet you some of theirs will. And we can all band together and we can strike back against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places, against the very son of the morning, even Satan himself. And we can get our life back. I'll leave you with a quote. It's the intro to a movie I've always loved called Gone, Baby Gone. When your job is to find people who are missing, it helps to know where they started. I find the people that started in the cracks and fell through. This life could be hard. When I was young, I asked my priest, how do I get to heaven and still protect myself from all the evil in the world? He told me what God told his children. Ye are sheep among wolves. Be wise as serpents, yet innocent as doves.